I know those receivers' hands were burning in the first half, man. No wonder they came out in the second half and they acted like they didn't want to catch anything.
They had to put in like the ice bucket. It was like, shh.
Man. Casey Thompson. I know we've been talking about him for a little bit. Transferred over from Texas. We watched ECG. I love the late night streams. All good, man. I know we talked about him a little bit when we watched the Bijan Robinson tape, and I was like, ooh, who's this guy? And I remember Coach saying, oh, that's Casey Thompson. Then he transferred to Florida State, and Adrian Martinez transferred out. He just couldn't get the job done. And he looked like the answer in the first half, man. It was like absolutely like this guy might be the one to turn around the program. So let's get into a little bit of stats here, and then we'll go ahead and kind of discuss. And like I said, we got Vic's picture, but he's sadly not here for this stream. So
in memoriam,
in memoriam of Victor, he's not here with us today.
Dr. Victor Von Doom. He will be missed.
So his completion and attempts 25 for 42, completion percentage 59.5%, pass yards 355. Actually, I think that's the most pass yards that a Nebraska quarterback has ever had in their first game. Touchdown to interception ratio is 1 for 2, and then QBR 65.9 with 1 rushing touchdown. So you actually had 2 touchdowns on the day. Manny, what was your impression of Casey, man? I'll get into my opinion about it, but I regardless of what happened in the second half, I still think his teammates need to step up for him. But those 2 interceptions, you can't do that late in the game.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So personally, as you said, the receivers were a big issue in this game in that second half. But like I said, I'm gonna throw blame at you, even if there is receivers that are dropping the ball. In some areas, if you're not the quarterback and you're not doing the right things, I'm sorry, I have to give you blame. In that first half, he played lights out, and I'll give him credit for that. But there's a lot of quarterbacks in college football that play lights out and then just start to play, bad in that second half. And I'm not gonna say he was absolutely atrocious. Yeah, he wasn't atrocious in the second half, but. And he kept his team in the game to where they had a chance to almost come back on him and, get the drive in and whatnot. But obviously that didn't happen. I thought he played good in the first half, but like I said, consistency matters. You have to play good on all phases of levels. And he didn't do that in that second half. So all I have to say is, as I said, consistency matters. Got to keep going and keep striding. Like I said, Bryce Young has the same problem. He has consistency issues. We'll get into him later. But yeah, Casey Thompson, 25 for 42, a lot of incompletions. He had a 59.5 completion percentage, 355 yards, a touchdown, 2 interceptions, and he got a rushing touchdown with a 65.9 QBR. So it was a pretty good day in the first half, but yeah, Scott Frost is a thing. So you're going to get conservative in the second half, and then, when the receivers start dropping the ball, and, lack of play from Casey Thompson in some, areas of the game, it's going to get to him. So I thought it was an overall solid performance for a first game. Hopefully they can rebound. It just all comes down to Scott Frost. We'll get to him later. But, yeah, that's how I felt about Casey Thompson.
Normal guys in the chat, appreciate you coming through for this late night podcast stream, man. I just checked my Ring camera, by the way, and my crazy neighbor, just dropped something off on our porch. I don't know what it was. You know what I'm saying? But we're going to figure it out. But anyways.
No.
So, what'd you think about his performance, man?
Again, I need to, hold on. Sorry, words are hard. I needed to go back and actually watch it instead of listening to it. But,
I think that might be our tape review on Friday.
Yeah, possibly.
Casey Thompson.
He did all right. Like Slay said, he wasn't a fully consistent guy. I know he had the 1 rush touchdown, but he had 3 rushes for negative 18 yards. Instead of putting all the blame on Casey Thompson, You know, you look at their running game. You had their number one running back, Anthony Grant, with 19 carries, 101 yards, 2 touchdowns. The second highest was stop loading. Hold on. Anyway, the second guy had only 2 rushes for 8 yards. You look at their receivers. They had Garcia Castaneda with 4 receptions, 120 yards, and a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else kind of just went down from there. So they had like their 2 big playmakers and then tiny little contributions from the other team. So Casey Thomas really did kind of have to carry the team. Again, like Slay said, great in the first half, kind of dropped off in the second half. Wasn't very consistent. You know, if he wants to elevate the team with his feet, he's got to do better than 3 rushes for 18 yards. I think Casey Thompson can be legit, but I do think there's one thing holding him back, and we will get into that subject later. But there's one big head guy holding Casey Thompson back, and we'll get to that later.
Yeah, so, you know, as me being the quarterback analyst that I am, you know, I agree with Fishing in the chat. That one scramble Casey Thompson threw out of was absolutely insane. He throws the ball hard as hell, man. Like, when it comes out, it's a freaking laser and it goes to where it's supposed to go. I think one thing that he does lack, and I heard a couple other people mention it too, is his lack of touch on the ball, which I think gets him in a little bit of trouble, especially when, you know, he doesn't have to throw the ball so hard on those slants. I mean, put a little bit of touch on it and lead your receiver, he'll get there. I know those receivers' hands were burning in the first half, man. No wonder they came out in the second half and they act like they didn't want to catch anything.
They had to put in like the ice bucket. It was like, shh.
Man, you know, y'all need to do the old Chinese tradition of, you know, punching the rice in the bowl, yo, and get them hands ready, because Casey Thompson's coming all season, man. I think he played really, really well. I think he played very promising for that team. It's not his fault that his teammates crapped the bed. And I think one of those 2 interceptions could have been easily adjusted if the receiver was better. Some receivers can adjust to a underthrown ball, especially on the slant. Good thing on you know what I'm talking about, that one slant interception right over the middle. The guy could have came in, he just, he swiped it up and, was right there to make the play on the ball because it was thrown short. But, in the NFL, you got to be wary of that stuff too. And he, welcome to the Big Ten. You're playing in a better conference than the Big 12 at this point in time, where people actually play a little bit of defense. But it's Northwestern too. I mean, what can we really expect? So shout out to Pat Fitzgerald. He's been in that school forever with Northwestern. I give him nothing but credit, man. And they played a really, really good game, and it was literally this next week that literally set the tone for college football to me, regardless of how sucky some of these other games were. But that one really set the tone of really good football on both sides of the ball. And I did want to call out one guy from that defense, man. Luke Reamer, man, he had 12 tackles. He was the linebacker for them. He was pretty awesome in the game too, getting to the quarterback, making some big hits on the quarterback as well. So not all is bad.